Bad news for Miami. Jimmy Butler expected to miss several weeks with a strained MCL. At 6:30 on TNT, the Kings are in New Orleans to meet the Pelicans. Sacramento favored by 1.5. The Pels are going to be without Zion. The winner of each game will be the 8th seed in the Eastern and Western Conference. The playoffs start Saturday morning with the Magic and Cavs from Cleveland. It's a 10 o'clock tip on ESPN. The NHL has okayed the Coyotes' sale and moved to Salt Lake City. The Mariners are in Colorado to start a weekend set with the Rockies tomorrow. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming up next. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings, is going to join us at 4:20. You know, if I had to rank which Mike Parkers I like the most, number one, of course, is the crazy, insane Mike who's behind the microphone going ballistic.
Mad at referees or umpires.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my number one Mike. Number two on that list would be the upset, very sad, melancholy Mike, like we just heard.
Yeah.
And then after that is Happy Mike. I want him to be angry and bitter at officials most of the time. But I'll take any Mike I can get. But Mike Parker's a classic.
Everything he does is worth listening to.
All right. Greg Doyle with that exchange there with Caitlin Clark.
Oh, creepy.
Do you think that was a
creepy.
little bit over the top?
I would say there's a lot of different reactions to it, all of them bad. I would say that. Nobody really cared for that.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. I like Greg Doyle. He's a funny guy and does a good
funny.
job. But that was
remember in the old days, we used to have him on quite a bit.
Yeah, he's terrific.
Yeah.
I've had a few moments like that in my life where I'll say something or do something, and right away I'm like, oh my gosh, could I be a little more awkward or inappropriate? Like sometimes you think something's going to come out a certain way, and it comes out in a way that you didn't intend or didn't really think through. That happens to me all the time.
Most people now think he's a creeper or a pervert. That's kind of the reaction.
Yeah, that's true. I did see a few of the players at the WNBA draft. I wouldn't do press conferences with because I'd be afraid I'd say something inappropriate.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I hate that. I'm an idiot, too. There's a lot of times where my mouth has gotten me in trouble where I'm like, why did I say that? What are you doing, Chad?
Yeah, but Doyle's mistake, man. The whole country was watching or listening to that. That's gotten immense exposure.
That's true. Most of the times I've said things like that involving someone of the other sex, it's been at least with maybe two people in the room or maybe a couple of others, but not at a press conference where it's going to be pushed out on social media. Thank goodness social media did not exist when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'd be in jail or something bad would have happened.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's a lot of things along the way that were not good.
Yeah, not a good scenario. I want to ask you about this. I'm excited because your wife, Nancy, has invited me to participate in a golf tournament coming up in June out at Willamette Valley Country Club. And I've never heard of this before, but it's called a couples Chapman.
Yeah. I think it's an alternating shot thing. That's my best. I watched it last year. See, people say, well, how come Nancy doesn't want to play with you? And it's a real simple answer on that. She'd like to win. That's the thing. She wants to win. So every year in the couples Chapman, she seeks out a man who's a good guy, who's not going to make any trouble for her, but who can really play golf. And that makes it fun for her because she's a competitor.
Can I make the Caitlin Clark heart sign at Nancy if she makes a good putt or a good shot? Are you okay with that?
I really wouldn't advise it. I don't think that would look good.
No, I'm excited to play in the tournament. My coach, Coach Nick from Golf Tech, he wants me to play in competitive tournaments because he says that's the next step in development, to play under a little bit of pressure when you got something riding on it. Like, the competitive golf is very appealing to me.
Mhm.
And what I like about your wife is that she takes golf very seriously, wants to win. And I want to get out there. What I'm hoping for is like what I've experienced with her on the course before. But one person makes a shot, the next person makes a shot, and you start to ride the momentum where you develop some confidence. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
We're still talking about that round you guys played where the back nine was just, you're make a great shot, she make a great shot. It was just back and forth all the way to the 18th green.
We fed off of each other, which was terrific.
Yeah.
I got to tell you what, man. The Tuesday was a little bit rough, just getting used to being on the course again. But today the weather was better. It was warmer.
Yeah.
And I played with a bunch of guys that you know. In fact, one guy that you grew up with. But it was just great to be out on the course. And by the time I hit the back nine, I was shedding gear because it was warm. And the ball was carrying very nicely. It was beautiful out there today. I need more of those type of days in my life, which I'm going to have tomorrow and on Saturday. But then I looked at the extended forecast, and by the time we hit middle of next week, more rain for like 7 straight days. And then you're like, what? Oh, it's like, oh, it's April. We still get punked. Even in late April, we still have to work through some rainy days. That stuff drives me crazy.
Well, April showers bring May flowers. You knew that.
I
right?
understand that. But out here, sometimes April showers bring May showers.
Exactly. Heavier showers.
Yeah, so
all the way to June often.
Couples Chapman. Your wife is impressive because she is competitive at golf. She's very competitive at tennis.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't jack around out there, man.
No,
she
she
takes it
doesn't.
seriously.
Yeah. She's played like, I think she's played like 7 out of the last 8 days.
I don't know because I've never talked to her about this, but it would seem to me I could see Nancy growing impatient with maybe people she plays tennis with or other people she plays sports with because she's out there to compete and try to play well. And other people, sometimes they're just not matched up or wired the same way. And that can be frustrating for someone who's very determined.
Yeah. Especially in like a, for her, tennis is most often a doubles game. She plays doubles. So you want to get a partner that's just as competitive as you. You don't want somebody who's just like, oh, I'm just out here to have fun. Well, she has fun too. Her fun is winning. That's her fun. So get prepared for that, And you've played golf with her before. We've had you out to play, and we've always enjoyed having you out. And she knows you're a good player. Believe me, she didn't invite you for your personality.
Yeah.
She knows you can play. That's the whole thing.
That's right. That's where the pressure comes from because I don't want to let her down.
Yeah. Well, I know she feels the same way. She's working hard because, her handicap's not as good as yours, but she wants to play her best when she's playing with you. And in this tournament, she wants to play her best.
So this format, the couples Chapman, I would assume that every duo is man-woman. Is that how it is?
That's how it works.
So it's
and some of them, actually, some of the women play with their sons who are grown, in their 20s or something.
How many husband-wife teams in the couples Chapman? That would seem a little bit disastrous.
Chad, we've seen the consequences of that, and some of the people even talk about it. I was in the pub there near the course one night, and somebody was telling me, "Oh no, we don't play together in the couples Chapman because there was too many conflicts. There was some arguments."
Yeah, I could see why that would be a problem. Like my dad, he's the one that got me playing golf when I was younger, and my mom was always wanting to go out and play. And he's like, "That's fine. You're welcome to come. I'd love to have you out there in the course, but I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm not going to talk to you about your swing. If you want lessons, I'll pay for your lessons, but I'm not going to get involved in that," because he didn't want to create any conflict with trying to teach your spouse how to swing a golf club. He understood that would be a messy situation. So that was probably wisdom beyond his years right there.
Yeah, and when I play with Nancy, she's pretty good about resisting the temptation to say, "Yeah,
What are you doing there?"
yeah." What
no
is
one likes that person on the golf course.
Yeah, I know.
Is that, "Are you my coach?" I love the person that always offers up advice. I don't need your help right now. I didn't ask for your commentary. Just keep your pie hole shut.
Yeah.
But there's always people out there on the course trying to offer up their advice or their swing tips. It's like, who are you?
See, when I was a kid playing, that's kind of what drove me away from the game is I couldn't play with anybody who didn't want to give me tips. And I know they're just trying to be nice, they're trying to help. But I got enough going through my
Yeah.
gourd without worrying about what you're telling me now.
Yeah, but some of them I don't think are trying to be nice. I think they're trying to be a know-it-all, and there's a difference.
Yeah.
And the know-it-alls like that, it's like, please shut up. I don't need your help. I didn't ask for a golf tip. I have a golf coach. I don't need you to offer up your input on when I hit a bad shot. Like none of it. I don't need any of it.
Scotty Bethune sent us an X post. Chapman, both players tee off. You then hit the other person's. Oh, you hit the other person's drive. You then choose the best second shot and alternate from there.
Okay, I like that format.
Yeah,
That's
well,
very nice.
You guys can use your drive. I think you're limited too to how many times you can use your drive, and you have to.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because if I'm longer off the tee,
Yeah, you can't have that the whole round, I'm
well,
sure.
the good thing is that what I like about those type of alternating shot situations, if you hit a bad tee shot and the other person's able to put you in better position, you can rebound quickly from that. So I'm excited. So big props to Nancy. I'm a big fan of hers, and I'm excited to get on the course out there at Willamette Valley. The good news is it's in June, so by the time the beginning of June rolls around, the weather should be prime time, baby.
Well, wait till the word gets around that you're playing. You guys are going to have a gallery because you're very popular out there.
I don't need a gallery, Godfather.
I know, but that's what I'm preparing you. I'm just getting you ready.
Will they pair us up with another couple's Chapman to where it'll be like a foursome on the course?
Oh,
or-
yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to have a score, or do they trust us to keep proper score?
You have to keep your own score.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just making sure. All right, that sounds good. You know what I don't need in my life? I don't need basketball games where stars are out. These injuries are already starting to eat at me, Godfather.
I know. It's terrible.
Miami playing a basketball game without Jimmy Butler is not a basketball game I want to watch.
Yeah. The playoffs without playoff Jimmy, that's not a good playoff.
No, I watched Miami when they were in town this year, taking on the Trailblazers. And I've always been a fan of Jimmy Butler, but I watched him closely throughout the night. All the different things he does on the floor. He can facilitate the offense. He spearheads their defense. He is directing traffic with his voice. He's so involved
Yeah.
and so on top of everything. I admire him as a basketball player because he's complete. He does everything the right way on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, he's a real good defender when he's healthy.
Yes.
Yeah. Great
And-
two-way player,
And then
especially in
Zion.
the clutch.
Zion's out tomorrow
Yeah.
with the whatever it is.
Yeah. And he's out for a while. I mean, even if they were to win and get into the next round, they play Boston, right? Yeah. Without Zion.
I know.
I'm sorry.
If you give me Boston and Miami with Jimmy Butler in the mix, I'm all about that because
Yeah.
Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, bam, that's enough to
They got some history there.
with who's that coach for Boston, Missoula, Montana?
Yeah.
I know that Missoula. No disrespect, of course.
Of course.
But
yeah.
if I'm comparing him to Spo, he's a dum-dum.
Yeah.
They made strides this year, but he's still inexperienced, and that can be a
Right.
problem against a team like Miami with a coach like Spoelstra. When NBA playoff basketball works, these coaches do a deep dive on their opponent to create problems.
That's why I like that Nick Nurse versus Spo in the play-in. Man, that was second-level basketball there. Nick Nurse won a game for Philadelphia that Doc Rivers would have lost. I can tell you that right now.
Doc Rivers getting a lot of mileage out of that one
Doc
championship.
Rivers.
All right, when we come back, Justin Myers, host of Rip City Morning, is going to stop by and talk ball with us at 4:20. When we come back, the Seahawks have a new head coach, Mike McDonald. I like him a lot, but he might be crazy, and we'll explain why next.
Yes.
This gin blossoms. All right, Michael Shacker is at Master Control. The Godfather Dwight James is here. You think Mike has more bad dad jokes than you do?
I do. Yeah, he tends to tell dad jokes. He's not a dad, but he's got them. You know, you hear him all the time. He's always messing around with it.
Well, you did a great job of distracting me throughout the commercial break there. We were talking about golf, and I was walking through all the holes at Willamette Valley Country Club in my mind. And then all of a sudden, Shacker's like, hey, are you going to call the next guest? Are we calling him or is he calling us? I'm like, we don't have a guest. And then I was like, oh, because we're going to talk about Mike McDonald.
That's a dad joke.
Yes, because if your name's Mike McDonald, in my era, anytime I hear Mike McDonald, Michael McDonald, there's only one Michael McDonald.
Right.
Lead singer of the Doobie Brothers and legendary voice who is a white guy that sings like a bro. It's amazing.
Likely has a better voice than the Seahawk head coach.
There's no question about it. Some singers, they're so silky smooth with the way they handle their vocals. Would you call it maple syrup?
He's maple syrup, man.
He's delicious. What do they call that? Blue-eyed soul, right?
Yeah. White guy singing that.
Yeah. He's awesome. I love Michael McDonald, and I've seen him in concert a few times. Cool guy. He does good interviews. And so every time I hear the Seahawks head coach and they say Mike McDonald, he's not the guy that comes to mind. It's the singer that does. But we got to talk about the Seahawks head coach, Mike McDonald. He's making some changes. He is coming in. He's new head coach, and he's a very likable guy. Well-respected around the leagues, coming over from Baltimore as their defensive coordinator. And I really like this guy. Like, I think he's got a chance to become a terrific head coach.
But, Chad, he's coming in hot.
He's coming in hot. Here's what's going on with Mike McDonald. So what he's done is he has gone through the headquarters for the Seahawks right up there off the lake just outside of Seattle. And he's cleared out all the walls. So he's taken down the pictures. He's taken down the memorabilia, anything that's really connecting the team to its past. And they do have a rich history with Pete Carroll, 14 years as head coach. Some of the players that came before him, they've won a championship. They went to back-to-back Super Bowls. What Mike McDonald has done is he's gone in and cleared out all of that. So when you walk through the hallways, you see a bunch of white walls, basically like this studio here or like a doctor's office. And I think his whole idea is it's a new regime, it's a clean slate, it's a fresh start, and we're focused on building our own memories, our own milestones, so that we can put up our own pictures. So I understand what he's trying to accomplish in his connection with his current players, and also probably trying to let them know, hey, I wasn't here last year or the year before that. That was a different coach, a different era with Pete Carroll. So whatever you bring to the table or whatever situation you had with Pete Carroll and that staff, you have a clean slate here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times players want to hear that. They want to be a part of that.
Sure.
But at the same time, for me, and I would imagine for you and almost everyone else listening, when you think about your team or any team in sport, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, the history and the tradition and the people that paved the way up until this point right now, that's part of the story. And for me, it's a very important part of the story, especially for the teams that I love. I can acknowledge and admire the people from today, but I also love the memories of what those greats from the past brought me as well. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I think it's a real wrong thing to do in today's world, Chad, because very often young players nowadays don't respect the players who came before them. And I think it's important to teach them about the legacy that they're involved with. You're a Seahawk now. We've won a Super Bowl. We had the Legion of Boom. We had great players. We had Marshawn Lynch here, still doing commercials. You can be a part of that tradition. Yeah, but you don't have to burn your past up to create the future. You can respect your past and then build on that. And I think, and you brought this up before the show, what about some of these teams and other sports? Can you imagine the Celtics doing this? The Lakers, the Yankees, the Dodgers? Would they just throw out all that tradition, all that winning, all that stuff that's come before Yeah. Send somebody out to center field in Yankee Stadium and tear down that Babe Ruth statue and forget about Derek Jeter. He's long gone. Who cares about him? That's just stupid. I think.
It really is. When I went to the Seahawks facility, and it's a beautiful facility,
Oh yeah.
um, I pass by it every time I take Isaac up to Bellevue. Well, the first time I went up there, I think it was like 2011 or 2012, the year they drafted Bruce Irvin, the pass rusher from West Virginia. I had never been up there before to cover an event. So when I got up there and I parked, I ended up going to the wrong entrance. It was like on the side of the building, but there was one of the grounds crew there that was really cool, and he brought me in the side entrance. And as soon as you walked in, I looked up, and it was really high ceilings, vaulted ceilings, and they had these different rooms for workout and different areas where you could focus on your drills or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I looked up at the ceiling, these vaulted ceilings, the first thing I saw was a big drop-down poster of Cortez Kennedy. And then you walk past that, and I look up, and I'm looking at Kenny Easley.
Yeah.
And then when I walked past that, I looked up, and I'm looking at Steve Largent.
Yeah.
All of these great Seahawks
Sure.
from the past.
Guys like Richard Sherman, they got to be up there.
All of them.
Yeah.
And, of course, I grew up with those guys. So Steve Largent, to me, is like a big-time super stud and one of the franchise greats. Or Walter Jones, their great left tackle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these are legendary football players who came with the franchise. And what was cool about that for me, and I'm not a Seahawks fan, but I'm there to cover the draft, I walked in and immediately was hit right in the face with the reminder of some of the tradition and history that had been laid down years before they even won their championship.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a good thing because you're like,
Yes.
oh, they have a history here. They've got a tradition. Look at some of the players that have come through these hallways and been a part of this organization.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's important for your new players to recognize if you do well here, you can be part of this. You can be part of the rich tradition here. We honor our past. Don't you want to become a part of that? I think it's inspirational to players.
If Sean Payton, when he took over as head coach for the Broncos, and I love the Broncos more than
I know
anything,
what's coming. Yeah.
if he would have come in and said, you know what, this John Elway guy, like props to him, and props to Shannon Sharp and Terrell Davis,
Yeah.
and all these other guys,
Mike
the three
Shanahan.
amigos, Mike Shanahan. Yeah, great. They're the past. We're not worried about those guys. I'm stripping the walls of the Elway pictures and all these great moments, the drive, the fumble, all of it. We're not worried about the past anymore. We're focused on the future and creating our own memories. I would have been on the first flight out of Portland to Denver, and I would have grabbed the pitchforks, and I would have been ready to take him on head-to-head because that would have been really offensive to me. It's like, no, you can't throw that out. That past that you're just disregarding is critical to my development as a football fan. It means everything to me.
Yeah.
And I would imagine for Seahawks fans, and I've lived out here for a long time, and I've gone to a lot of Seahawks games. So people forget that there actually were players that were on the Seahawks before they won the Super Bowl. Great players. And I saw them, many of them play live. Those people have a place in the organization. Just like Portland, what makes Rip City unique? That there's a strong connection
Yep.
to the team, not just today, but the 77 championship team or the teams in the 90s and Clyde and Bill Walton and all these guys. We remember that. It's part of our memory banks. But the great thing about being a sports fan is those images that you have
Yeah.
from all the years of being a fan and
Those-
how big those players are to you.
Those good times.
The good times.
Yes, that's what you treasure as a fan is those winning times, all that stuff. And what bothers me, Chad, is the way it's being covered in the media in Seattle because nobody wants to get on the bad side of a new head coach.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's go talk to the current players. Oh, yeah, the current players are saying this is good. It gives us a chance to create our own history and our own. Well, yeah, what else are they going to say? Are they going to say, I think our new coach was really stupid to do that? They're not going to say that.
No, because
everybody's going to back him up.
Of course they are.
But somebody in that organization, I don't know if it's John Schneider, somebody should have said, get your hands off that stuff.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
I remember, and we see a lot of colleges do this too. Dan Lanning's done a great job since he took over at Oregon of embracing the past.
Celebrating it.
Celebrating it.
Absolutely.
Barry Switzer did the same thing in Oklahoma, and then after he left, the Sooners went through years of struggle, and they had coaches that didn't really embrace
Yeah.
the history and the tradition. When Bob Stoops took over, he let it be known, hey, Bosworth, you're welcome on the sideline anytime. He reached out to the former greats because it's one big family. He wanted them to feel like they were still a part of something special because he was building something.
And it tells his current players, you got a home here.
Yeah.
We love you here. You're welcome back anytime you want. Anytime. Come to the meetings if you want. Watch practice. We don't care. You're in our family forever.
Yes.
That's what's important messaging to your players.
Yes. And I understand what McDonald's trying to do because I've always thought, like Mark Helfrich, when he took over for Chip Kelly at Oregon, see, the problem there is that was the other extreme where he didn't try to put his own stamp on the program.
Yeah.
So Helfrich takes over. People were so distraught that Chip Kelly was gone that they wanted win the day to continue, right?
Right.
So Helfrich got stuck in a situation where he was a new coach and he couldn't really develop his own identity because everyone wanted him to kind of keep the Chip Kelly train going, but he's not Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
So that's a guy who was trying to run an operation that wasn't his own, and I think that's a problem.
Yes.
But in this case, I think you need to find that balance of embracing the past. Where it can get you into trouble is where you're always trying to cling to the past or bring the past back to today, right? Like the Raiders or Al Davis maybe tried to hold on to that stuff too long with the speed and speed kills and all that. You got to find that balance there where you can celebrate your history, but yet still keep things moving forward.
And Mike McDonald is most likely, you touched on this, most likely going to be a really good coach for them. And he's free to do anything on the field that he wants. It's just, come on. You don't have to touch the memories of past great players. I don't get it at all. I just think it's crazy. Legion of Boom, you want to wipe that away? I'd be using that. Guys, we're going to create our own Legion of Boom. Here's this great bunch that did this. They won a Super Bowl. Let's match that or even do better than that. Let's win two. You can use all that. Don't just wipe it away. Crazy.
It is. And I think, don't you think great players, too, that depending on the organization, like I've heard Shaq talk about this when he went to play for the Lakers, knowing he was following Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Kobe Bryant following in the footsteps of Magic, or players that go to play for Chicago now knowing that they follow that tradition that was laid down by MJ. I think a lot of times that can help some of these young greats aspire to, I want to leave an imprint on the franchise like that guy did.
I think you see it more with the Boston Celtics than any other organization in sports. They celebrate being a Celtic. I mean, you learn right away what that's like.
It means something.
Absolutely. It means something in the town and to the players. And I think you see that all over sports. If you're a Yankee, ask somebody sometime what it's like to be a Yankee. Boy, that's a big deal that you played for the Yankees.
I wonder what a guy like Pete Carroll thinks when he reads a story like that about McDonald.
Oh, man. That's crushing, isn't it?
Yeah, screw this guy. I was there for 14 years.
Yeah.
I coached him to back-to-back Super Bowls. We won a championship.
Yeah.
You're just going to take all that stuff down?
Yeah. Respect me.
Yeah. Steve Largent, who I think next to Jerry Rice is like the second best receiver in the history of the NFL, his picture should be up everywhere in that facility. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. To disrespect all that is just, I think it's a real bad way to start your career as the head coach up there.
Yeah. But I've noticed as I've gotten older that I get very perturbed when I hear from younger individuals who don't even know about the past.
Yeah. Never even heard these names.
And I'm sure the people before my time got irritated just like I do now. It happens to all of us. It's like, no, there were other greats that were a part of that too. So, I don't know.
People who think Dr. J was the team doctor for the 76ers.
Who was the who's the guy that just retired? The Yankees announcer.
John
Yankees
Sterling.
win. I was listening to an interview with John Sterling yesterday, and someone asked him like, who was the greatest basketball player that you got to call during your time on the mic? Because he did more than just baseball.
Oh yeah.
He referenced Dr. J.
Did he?
Because he called Nets games and stuff. But he said Dr. J was great, and he said as an opponent, he goes Larry Bird. He used to do some really mean things to the Nets and some of the other teams, the Hawks. He was a big fan of Dominique Wilkins. But yeah, the history's part of it. It's part of it. It's important. Those memories and those greats, the former greats. Can you imagine a coach coming into Portland and trying to take down pictures of Bill Walton or this or that because they're trying to create a new legacy with our own memories, our own stories? People here would go insane.
You're talking about, we have been talking about people blocking freeways with demonstrations. If you tried to do that stuff over there and the Rose Quarter, there would be people standing in your way, blocking you from doing that.
There would be people
There would.
protesting and trying to block you
And
from
I'm
being able to
serious
do
about
that.
that. People
You're right.
would not stand for that. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't stand for that.
Yeah, you think the conflict in the Middle East is a problem?
Yeah.
Go in and try
Try
to
to do
strip
that.
down the past of the Trailblazers.
Well, that was one of the biggest complaints, too, when Paul Allen came in to own the team, is he did not honor a lot of the previous players. And that took a long time before it happened, Chad. And those previous players weren't real happy about it.
Why was that? Do you think he just didn't understand? He was learning on the job?
He was. I think it was one of those things that he just missed. He missed it. He didn't get it. And once people started bombarding him with it,
He started to get it.
yeah. But at first, when you hear it all the time, it makes you resist that.
You resist it.
Make it harder to get the change.
My guess is with Paul, based on what I know about him, what you've told me, and because he loved his players, right?
Yeah.
He probably started to understand as time went on and he had been in that owner's chair a little bit longer because
Yeah.
he fell in love with his guys too. He probably was
Right.
like, oh, that's what
Yeah,
that's all
don't
about.
talk to me about Walton and Gross and Lucas. I got Kiki and Clyde. I'm playing horse with those guys at my own house here. So don't bother me. But then they leave, and all of a sudden, hey, we ought to honor our former players a little more. Well, you got it that way, I think.
I love it. All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Justin Myers is going to stop by and say, what's up? He'll join us at 4:20. A beautiful day outside with the sunshine. Don't you love this, Godfather?
It's the best.
It's the best, isn't it? Blue skies, warmth. Yeah!
Portland with sunshine is about as good as it gets.
Yes. It just doesn't happen too often,
Don't
unfortunately.
get it enough.
All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Justin Myers at 4:20. When we come back, Ethan Strauss has released some data on the NBA ratings and the in-season tournament. We'll give you the latest details on that. If you want to jump on board, feel free, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. This right here is incredible. Jaguars GM Trent Baalke ripped a fart mid-press conference, said, "Excuse me," and just kept rolling. Take a listen to this.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board.
He said, "Excuse me."
Excuse me.
Still
And
got
he
a
just keeps
couple of
right on
days
going.
through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
If you don't say "excuse me," you can say, "No. It was the chair I was sitting in. It wasn't. It was my windshield wipers out in the car."
That's definitely
whatever.
a fart.
Yeah.
So good.
When he says "excuse me," what else could it be? It's
Still
not a
got
burp. I
couple
can
of
tell you
days
that.
going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
He didn't even stop.
That's never not going to be funny.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
I am a big fan of people farting on TV, on radio, in press conferences. I need more of that in my life. Oh, my gosh. I mean, my goal is to always try to rip him so loud it gets picked up on the mic. Trent Baalke, I mean, props to him. I love old guys when they fart, too, because they do it. Sometimes they don't even acknowledge it. In a crowd, they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elevators. In
Yeah.
a crowd going into a game.
And that is a level I want to get to where you can just let one fly and then you don't even acknowledge it. And everyone knows what happened. You just ignore it. I love that,
Well,
man.
if you don't smile or say "excuse me," they're not quite sure who did it.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Oh, thank you, Trent. Appreciate that.
Oh my goodness!
What was it? Someone said they're going to be explosive this year.
The Jags are going to be very explosive this year.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you, Trent. Really appreciate that. All right. I want to read this from you to you. This is from Sham Sharania in regards to the NBA with the NBA Cup. I guess that's what they're calling it.
Yeah.
Sources: the NBA Board of Governors has discussed a proposal that the round to which a team advances in the NBA Cup would be used as the first postseason tiebreaker. League is polling GMs on NBA Cup advancement versus head-to-head results as first tiebreaker to bring for final vote. Also, Shams continues, GMs will choose among options per source: 1, NBA Cup as first postseason tiebreaker, or 2, NBA Cup as second tiebreaker after head-to-head, and third in ties involving more than 2 teams, advancement to NBA Cup as the first tiebreaker and further advancement as third and fourth. Well, I think all of that's ridiculous. The fact that you can play 82 games and not have head-to-head count as the most important thing is absurd.
That breaks the tie every time, no doubt about it.
I mean, that's like the freaking, going back to the days of, in baseball where the winner of the All-Star game, the National League or American League, got the home field advantage in the World Series.
Yeah.
You didn't like that idea, did you?
No, I didn't.
I mean, come on. You're going to play 162 games, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're just going to go ahead and doesn't matter about those games. Who won the All-Star game?
Well, the only thing about baseball is it wasn't good even before that because they alternated it. They never did it on record. It was just American League one year and National League the next year, which wasn't any good either.
All right, so the NBA obviously trying to make the NBA Cup mean something, right?
Trying their best to make it important.
All right, let me read this to you. This is from Ethan Strauss, who covers the league and does a heck of a job. In fact,
Really good.
He's borderline too smart for me because I read a lot of his stuff, and I'm like, what'd he just say?
No, you could add your IQ and my IQ together, and they wouldn't reach his.
He's terrific. It says, quiet as it's kept, the NBA viewership dropped 1% this season across ABC, ESPN, and TNT. That's not an overall cataclysm, but it's worth noting that it was the worst NBA viewership on network TV in recorded history. If you're wondering why, quote, worst network ratings ever coexist with 1% drop overall, it's in part because the writers' strike resulted in the NBA getting 5 extra ABC games on Wednesdays. The result were well below expectations for network television, but the bigger platform of ABC still garners better numbers than what you get on cable. This brings me to the following question. Now that the NBA regular season is in the rearview, what exactly was the point of the much-touted in-season tournament? Somehow I stirred controversy by calling the experiment an overall ratings disappointment, but here we are, into the season, and there were 0 season gains in an era where Nielsen's evolving counting system sees the others' sports surge. wasn't that the point to increase regular season interest? Because we refused to take the simpler approach here, there's a wrinkle. While the first in-season tournament viewership wasn't especially impressive, the final featuring the Lakers got a huge number. The question then is why this interest failed to spread? Why was the surge more than balanced out by declines elsewhere? And he says his answer here is that the first in-season tournament failed, something I call sports displacement theory. It's the theory that if you aren't reducing games, you can more easily move fan interest to different parts of the season than you can grow interest overall. So if I understand what Ethan Strauss is saying here is that the NBA still has the same number of games. They were able to create one spike with the final of the NBA Cup with the Lakers involved, but that overall interest in that one game didn't spread out to other parts of the season.
Chad, what they did is they spent a lot of money to make that one game an event, to make it special. And they did. They spent all that money on these goofy courts for the lead-in games to it. They spent money just on promos for this game. They combined the TNT and ESPN broadcast crews on these games.
Yeah.
All the things they did to make this, they spent millions extra to make this one game important.
So
they got lucky it was the Lakers.
So really what Strauss is suggesting, much like we have in the NFL, you want to create a demand, a reason for people to watch, meaning the NFL is great because one loss, one win can change an entire season.
Yes.
But when you have 82 games, you just don't have the same type of urgency that you would have watching a football game. So what the NBA, what it sounds like, reduce the number of games played to create the urgency overall. Because he said and pointed out that the highest ratings that the NBA got post-MJ was the 2012 season when they had 66 games because of the lockout.
Right.
Better ratings because you had more urgency on just 66 games.
When you have fewer games, you create more appointment viewing.
Yes.
The big games are fewer, so more people are going to watch them.
And the season starts later in the year.
Exactly.
So you're not competing with football.
Not going against college or pro football nearly as much if you start on Christmas.
So here's my question. How can the NBA keep their revenue numbers the same by reducing the games played?
Well, first of all, it's probably not going to happen overnight. But theoretically, at least, the games you played, you play now under a smaller schedule. You can take those season tickets people are buying and charge them the same amount as they're paying for 82 games.
Yeah.
They're not going to like it, but that's what you're going to do, and those people are probably going to buy them anyway. So consequently, you've raised the price of single-game tickets, but you've also probably raised the ratings on the games that you do play. Consequently, you might get more money for your TV contracts.
Less inventory, higher ratings.
Yeah.
And if the ratings are higher, even if there are fewer games, you're getting more dollars from the television network.
And you brought this up earlier. Players playing fewer games are not going to be injured as often. That's the theory, and I think it's true. And they get more rest in between games. So you're going to have healthier players. You can actually get to go and watch the real players play.
And load management wouldn't be the issue that it is right now.
Exactly.
Which is a serious problem for the league.
Absolutely.
Why am I going to go watch a game or tune in to watch a game if the stars aren't going to play?
Yeah.
If you don't care, I don't care. All right. We'll keep things rolling here on the show. Ethan Strauss.
Good job, huh?
Whew. He is. He's one of those guys where I'm like, you're a little bit too smart for me.
He's a step ahead of the whole league, really.
Like Dennis Miller. I know Dennis Miller's funny, but half the time it's like right over the top of my head because he's too smart for me, Godfather.
Yeah.
All right, we got the Rip City Drive. Justin Myers coming up at 4:20. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the injuries in the NBA, which suck this time of year because the playoffs are getting ready to launch. We know the Lakers and Nuggets has a lot of intrigue, but what are some other series to pay attention to? I'll get the Godfather's take on that. All right, NBA playing doubleheader tomorrow. First game at 4 on ESPN. The Bulls at the Heat. Miami favored by 1.5. Bad news for the Heat. Jimmy Butler expected to miss several weeks with a strained MCL. At 6:30 on TNT tomorrow. Kings are in Nolens to meet the Pelicans. Sacramento favored by 1.5. The Pels will be without Zion. The winner of each game will be the 8th seed in the Eastern and Western Conference. The playoffs start Saturday morning with the Magic and Cavs from Cleveland. 10 o'clock tip on ESPN. The NHL has okayed the Coyotes' sale and moved to Salt Lake City. The Mariners are in Colorado. They start a weekend set with the Rockies tomorrow. Trent Baalke at a press conference today.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
You're excused, Coach. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad continues. Justin Myers coming up at 4:20.
Oh, gosh.
Did she do this song at the concert? Yes, they're dumb. Probably lip syncing too. Some miming going on there, huh? I'm jealous. All right, Justin Myers coming up at 4:20. Little Janet Jackson from Shacker. I like that. As you know, I watch a lot of old-time television at night on Get TV.
You do.
It's funny to see a young, very young Janet Jackson on Good Times. She was just a little tot back then.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I've been watching Good Times. I got stuck in a Columbo marathon the other night.
Oh, those are great. I love those.
Columbo's terrific. Peter, what's his last name?
Peter Falk.
Yeah, Peter Falk. He's great. Love Peter Falk. Still watch my Perry Mason. Yeah, I like all that. I've been watching this game show Catch 21. That's pretty good. I just like all the old TV shows, man. I'm down. Heart to Heart's been one of my favorites, too.
Robert Wagner.
Yeah, Robert Wagner. I don't like to read about him on Wikipedia because then I have to wonder if he whacked his girlfriend or not, but whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't charged with it. Christopher Walken was on that boat. I don't know. Robert
That's
Wagner.
right, he
Yeah,
was.
Walken was there. It's funny. I like reading up. I like seeing when I come across these old TV shows. I like Googling certain actors to see what they're up to now. If they passed away, some of them I had forgotten about.
Well, watching those old Perry Mason, be sure and look at the credits because a lot of actors really got their first role on Perry Mason, and sometimes you don't even recognize them. They're so young.
His assistant, I forgot her name in the show. She's hot.
Della Street.
Yeah. Hi,
her-
Della.
His secretary. Yeah.
Yeah, she was cool. The black and white ones are cool, man. I like that. You probably remember that. I remember having a black and white television in my room when I was little.
Oh, gosh, yes.
No remote either. You had to go up there and crank the knob.
That was the worst part. Hey, that remote control was the greatest thing that ever happened to TV.
Game changer.
It was better than getting color TV. I mean, I could live with a black and white TV as long as I didn't have to get up to change the station.
And remotes, just like telephones, the original remotes, they weren't compact.
Right.
It was like a gigantic brick. My Nana and Papa had a Zenith television, and I loved it because I'd go over there and spend the night on Friday and get up and watch Saturday morning cartoons. But the freaking remote was like a gigantic brick.
The first one
Huge.
we had was connected to the TV.
Yeah. Did it reach back to the couch? Because the first remote we had for our VHS that we bought, the top-loading VHS machine, the remote was wired into the friggin' VHS machine, but it wasn't long enough to get back to the couch. So you'd be standing there halfway in between, like fast forwarding. And my dad would do that sometimes where he would get up, grab the remote, and then he would stand in front of the TV and fast forward through parts of different movies that he didn't think were appropriate for us to watch, that kind of stuff. And then now we got access to everything on touch screens and all kinds of stuff. Remotes are small.
Yeah.
There's still too many remotes. You would think that it would perfect the idea of like one remote that can do everything, but no,
I
we're not going to
agree.
be able to do that. You
Yeah.
still got to have multiple remotes.
But remember the days when if you wanted a big screen television,
Uh-huh.
and I had one on my houseboat,
Yeah,
that thing must have weighed 2,000 pounds.
gigantic.
It
Was it a projection screen?
Yeah, it was just huge. And the screen was not as big as the big screens are now, but the whole mechanism to make it work was gigantic.
I still remember the couple's name. Like when I was growing up in Manford, Richard and Betty Watkins. They were the first couple that got like the projection big screen in the crib, and that was the one that had like the projector screen and it had the lights down in front. It would shoot up towards the screen. It was a big contraption to have in your living room, right?
Yeah.
But it was like we had a big movie night once where they're like, hey, you guys want to come over? And they invited my parents over. We watched Raiders of the Lost Ark with the laser disc, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty dope. That was actually a
Yeah.
pretty good product.
Yeah.
So we went over there, and I remember that. We watched it on the projection screen. And in the day, early 80s, that was like, I don't know how much they spent on it, but it was probably a couple grand. That was a big deal.
It was. And you mentioned in the day, picture quality was not as good if the sun happened to be shining in on that screen.
No, you couldn't see jack. It sucked. One of my favorite Christmases of all time was, I want to say it was like 1989-ish, but I finally got the TV for my room, and I got the cable plug-in for my room, so I had access to ESPN.
Yeah.
And I had the VCR on top of my TV so I could plug in the old Bronco games or whatever. I know Mike McDonald would discourage this type of activity, but I watched a lot of old games because I like to live in the past sometimes. Sorry, Mike. But that was the best, man. Cable TV with the remote, lying in bed at night watching ESPN and falling asleep to SportsCenter. It was great.
You're still doing it.
Yeah, I know. But now I find myself, I come across a documentary or some type of animal show, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Find myself watching stuff that I find interesting. I told you I was watching those videos of the machinery that can do the work of like 100 men now, where they yank a tree out of the ground,
Yeah.
it strips it down, and then can cut it up all in one, and one guy working the machine.
See, my stuff late at night, it's always DVR. I mean, my DVR is constantly full because I'm recording so many things at one time. I forget some of them. I have to go through and make sure that I'm kind of keeping pace or it gets full.
What I hate is when my daughter just deletes things from my DVR collection. What are you doing? I was going to watch that. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, don't touch my programs that I record. I love the DVR. What a genius
The best.
concept that is.
Yeah,
Who
it's
wants
the
to
best.
watch commercials?
Yeah, it's the best.
I hate saying that in a media world where we have broadcast commercials.
But it also allows you to watch the games you want to watch without missing other programming that's on.
That's true.
And I mean, I have a really good one now that saves a lot. You can record 4 or 5 things at one time. And I record this. Vice TV has this series, The Dark Side of Wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's got all these really good stories of wrestlers who have, most of them have passed on because of drug problems or
Yeah.
suicide or whatever. There's some really riveting stuff on there from wrestlers you used to watch in the old days.
How badly do you want a 30 for 30 on Jonte Porter? That would be good.
It would. Yeah. If there's.
I
Boy,
want to go behind the scenes to see how these people in Vegas nab and pay attention to suspicious activity.
That sounds almost like a 60 Minutes show where they get involved with one of those companies that does security.
We get like Wallace in there, like asking questions or whatever.
Well, yeah. Well, he's not there anymore, but yeah, get somebody good in there and really find out how they do it.
That's what I want to know. I'm sure they won't share all your secrets
of
or
course
all their secrets, but I'd like to
Yeah.
know. I'd like to see it go down. It's pretty amazing how they can, most of the stuff, it sticks out like a sore thumb because they've been studying human behavior forever. I'm fascinated by all of that.
Yeah, Vegas is way ahead of the rest of the world on that, right?
100%. And we'll get more on the gambling issue. We'll talk about what is the social responsibility of these sports leagues and these gambling companies with, this new day and age of gambling being available just about anywhere. We'll get to that coming up at 5:20. NBA playoffs will kick off this weekend. Lakers and Nuggets begin their series 5:30 on Saturday. Last 7 times they've played, Denver's won all 7, including the 4 straight that they beat them in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But they were all close games.
Yeah, they were.
So how do you see this series playing out? I mean, we both expect Denver to win.
Excuse yourself.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, I just went Trent Baalke. My bad.
Yeah.
But
I
if there's any team that can compete with them, it would be the Lakers with their size, right? Anytime you got LeBron and AD, you have a puncher's chance.
Yeah, Minnesota has actually had real good luck with them with their size this year too. As if the regular season means anything, especially with Minnesota, who could beat you in the regular season and
Yeah.
can't beat anybody
Come
in
out
the
flat.
playoffs.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Lakers are better, I believe, than they were last year, and certainly AD has been healthier this year than he was last year.
Yes.
The Nuggets are not probably quite as good. Lost a couple key guys from last year.
Not as deep.
Yeah, not as deep. They need their starting five real bad this year. But I still think that starting five is better. And you still got to go through the big guy. And Jokic is so tough that they last year couldn't do much with him. And I think you're going to see that repeated. And Murray is so good if he's healthy. And if he's not healthy, they're in trouble, I think.
If you're the Lakers, how would you try to defend with their personnel? What would you do? What would be your game plan to try and slow down Jokic? Because if you double team him, you're dead.
You are, but you almost, if you don't get the ball out of his hands, you're dead too. Because he can beat you so many ways, and it's just so hard.
Would you rather double him and force the ball out of his hands and just dare these other guys to knock down threes?
Yeah, I think I'd almost go to some kind of triangle and two and guard Murray real hard, guard Jokic real hard. But then every time either one of them gets into the lane, you get that extra helper.
Yeah, I would take my chances with the other guys, but man, those other guys have been playing well. Contavious Caldwell-Pope has been terrific for them.
He has, yeah. I think you almost could use some sort of gimmick defense against them because they've seen everything else. They've seen your zones. They've seen your man. They know all that stuff, and they handle themselves really well against all defenses. So I would try to show them mix self-coverage, change it up all the time, and show them a few things that they probably haven't seen.
All right, I want to ask you about a couple other series just to kind of get a feel for what you'd be looking for. I want the Kings to win tomorrow. I don't trust the Kings to win tomorrow, but I want them to win tomorrow because I think a Sacramento, Oklahoma City opening round series between the 1 and 8 would be wildly fascinating because of the pace and some of the young athletes that both teams have. Like, I think that would be an aesthetically pleasing series to watch. Last year, the Warriors and Kings in round 1 was awesome.
Yeah.
And Sacramento's got a good home court advantage. Oklahoma City's got a lot of great players, including Shea Gilgeous. Like, I want that series to happen.
I do too. I'm excited to watch it. And I'd also like to see OKC get off to a good start in the playoffs because if they do, and if they get rolling and get some confidence, they're a threat to beat anybody in it. They really are. They've had such a great year, and they are loaded with talent. It's just a matter of time for them when they're going to be in the NBA Finals.
All right, let me ask you, give me a take on a couple other series here. What about Minnesota Phoenix?
Oh, Minnesota's got a good chance against them because I just, that Phoenix big three, I'm not a big believer there. They don't defend well enough, and they're playing in Minnesota, probably the best defensive team in the league.
How about the Clippers and Mavericks? Dallas, one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I like Dallas in that series, and the Clippers have that long, long history of playoff choking.
What about the Knicks and the 76ers?
Well, I'd love to see the Knicks. For some reason, I just love to see the Knicks lose. There's just too much. There's too much Knicks love out there now. I never root for a New York team.
I am going to watch Milwaukee, Indiana should be fun because those two teams hate each other. That was proven throughout the course of the regular season.
And Indiana's had a big edge on them this season. It's going to be fun to watch.
Milwaukee could get knocked off with Giannis being questionable for the series, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who do you like in that series? You think Milwaukee will find a way to?
No, I think Indiana will win because I don't think Giannis is going to make it back for that series.
All right, Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings. We're going to get his take on this new potential 70-team Super League in college sports. We'll get his take on date night, how that went. Justin Myers, Rip City Mornings, up next on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, he is the host of Rip City Mornings from the 541. Justin Myers is back on the show. I want to start with this, Justin.
Yes.
I just want your reaction to Trent Baalke, general manager of the Jaguars, and how smooth he handled this Bronx cheer during the course of the press conference. Take a listen.
Board yet. Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Is that not incredible or what, Justin? How good is that?
Here's the thing. There are like certain levels of life that you aspire to have, right? Financial security, a house. Then there is the level of life where you can fart in a room of media members and not care and just keep moving on. The Panthers might be awesome next year because the guy in charge who's putting the team together clearly is solely focused on football. He is not focused on anything else, cannot be distracted, cannot be embarrassed. It's like relationship goals. My wife would kill me if she knew I was telling this on the radio, but that's one of the keys in a relationship goal. When you finally get to the point where you can fart comfortably in front of your partner, that is such a freeing feeling. For Trent Baalke to have that with the media, man, what Carolina Panthers, whatever their over-under is for next year, hammer the over.
Well,
but he said, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's like, excuse me.
Exactly.
He just breezed over it.
It's like when you say with all due respect, you can say whatever you want. As long as you say, excuse me, you can fart in a room of media members and you're fine. I said, excuse me.
But is it harder, Dwight, like as you get older, is it harder to keep them in? Like, is it harder to squeeze? I'm serious. I'm being serious. I need to know what to expect because maybe Baalke just can't hold them in like he used to.
The answer, Chad, is no.
Okay.
It's not more difficult to hold them in, okay? Trust me, I hold them in all the time.
Oh, it's so good. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings. Relationship goals.
Excuse
You've
me.
told me that before, too. There's nothing like being able to let out a Bronx cheer, and your lady looks over you and says, nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or she tries to match it. That's
I mean, it is the best, and like usually, and I will admit, I was the first one in my relationship. I let one go one time.
hey,
I
the
was
guy's
like,
always the first one.
yeah, and it's like, but it is such a break of the ice. It's like, okay, great. Now we don't have to sit in discomfort. We don't have to sit here and pretend like we don't fart. We don't have to sit here to pretend anymore. Now we can now we can just move forward. So,
Keep it real.
Exactly.
I think this is my favorite discussion we've had on radio.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's right.
And we're talking to the right guy.
No, I love it. It's like, why pretend like this doesn't happen? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's the best. Oh, my goodness. All right, Justin, what's your take on the Ducks removing the weirdness on the hardwood and sanding it down?
Oh, but thankfully I don't have to defend that anymore. I am so happy. I'm so happy I don't have to defend that anymore. Like, here's the honest answer. I don't know of one Oregon fan who liked it, right? None of us did. But because it was a swoosh thing, we all kind of have to pretend, right? Like, did you ever have like the rich kid that was kind of bratty, but he had the awesome birthday party, so you kind of had to pretend to be his friend?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what we do as Oregon fans. Look, Nike doesn't always hit home runs. Every once in a while, they put a big clunker out there. And usually they're pretty good about recognizing that, you know what, this one wasn't working. Let's run it back. The Deep in the Woods court lasted for 13 years. It was far too long. But you know what? A lot of memories of, the first year they had it. I don't know if you guys remember, but they didn't have a center court line.
Yeah.
They had the invisible pinstripe center court line, which ultimately got Creighton a backcourt violation and got Oregon a CBI victory. So, I mean, I think it was worth it. But yeah, I don't know one Oregon fan that liked it. It was weird looking. It was off-putting. Then they kind of redid it a couple of years ago. Like they almost made it more pronounced, like double down. I'm so happy it's gone. Bring back the old Matt court, right? What's old is new. Nostalgia's in. The dream of the 90s is alive again. Let's bring back the old school court.
Have you heard any gossip about what it's going to look like?
I haven't, but I put out on Twitter my suggestion. Like I said, I want the old Matt court. You've got to have it in storage somewhere. Bring that back. I do know, like, now I have heard rumors because they are redoing all of their football uniforms, and they kind of hinted out some things, and they're calling it Generation O. So the rumor is that they might be going back, like throwback, a little bit to the late 90s, early 2000s Joey Harrington era uniform. So maybe that crosses over into basketball, and you maybe see some throwbacks there. but anything's better than the deep in the woods. It was bad. It was never good. We all pretended to like it because it was Nike and it was Tinker Hatfield, but guys, I hated it. I never liked it, and I'm glad it's over.
Okay, Justin, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've seen it by now, but there is a leak, apparently, of the way that 70-team Super League is going to look when it gets up and running. And I was wondering what you thought of that at the first look at it.
I've been obsessed with this, guys. I have been obsessed with it. It is a group called College Sports Tomorrow, which sounds like a seminar that we would have to sit through for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe get a break in the middle, like, hey, college sports tomorrow, because today is almost too late, right? That's what they're calling it. But it is kind of backed by some heavy hitters. People that know, like Gordon Gee, who is the president of West Virginia. I think one of the companies that is a huge search firm that unfortunately found George Kliavkoff, but also found Tony Petitti at the Big Ten, like the guys who run the search firm, and I think top executives of the NFL are kind of backing this quote unquote Super League. I love it. I love the idea. It brings college football back to 1992, but with some NIL parameters and with some transfer portal parameters. The big problem that I see in this whole thing is, let's be honest, right now, the Big Ten and the SEC run everything, right? They run everything. The ACC is teetering. The Pac-12 is no more. And I think the Big Ten is going to be fine. I think they're going to be from a revenue standpoint, but when you talk about power players in college football right now, the SEC and the Big Ten essentially do whatever they want. So in order for this to happen, which I think it will, but not in this particular way, I do think it's going to go back to like 10-team divisions. But in order to make this happen, you would have to essentially ask the Big Ten and the SEC to give up all the power that they have accrued in the last 3 to 4 years. And good luck with either of those conferences giving up any power. But I do like it. I do like the idea. It's a way to maybe rein in the transfer portal, keep NIL a part of college football, but make it to where it's a little bit more above board. And I think make a better overall product. You're not going to put toothpaste back in the tube. We're not going back to 2019. I understand that that's never going to happen. But the way it's going right now does not seem like a sustainable solution, that transferring whenever you want, unlimited times of transfers over and over again, I don't think is good ultimately for the game. So I think it's a good compromise. You're going to have to convince the Big Ten and the SEC to either A, give up power, or B, they will just steal the idea, which I think is going to happen, and take over it. And you're going to see the SEC and the Big Ten kind of run college football aside from the NCAA in this type of format.
I at least like them looking forward, at least in terms of regional divisions of the league, so that we kind of get back to our schools playing on the West Coast again. And it looked like Oregon State was included in it.
It was hilarious, Dwight, because I looked at those 7 divisions, and then you got kind of the one the prove it division, which is the smaller schools. But you look at those 7 divisions. Go back and look. And I went back on Wikipedia. Go back and look at college football 1992, the Pac-10. Hey, look, there it is.
Yeah,
it's not exactly the Big 8, but it's pretty close. It's not exactly the Southwest Conference, but it's pretty close. The Big Ten is the Big Ten again before Penn State came in. I mean, it looks an awful lot like 1992 again, which I think from a conference standpoint, that's kind of what we want in college football, right? You play everybody in your conference, but you take that and move it forward with NIL and a 12-team playoff. Therefore, old school guys like me, new school guys like Chad, let's compromise, let's shake hands, let's find a way so we can both work this out. And because I think both sides can kind of agree. Right now, I don't know if it's a sustainable model with everybody transferring everywhere, with NIL kind of running without any sort of regulation. They're going to have to find some way to collectively bargain. It feels like a good idea, but it's college football, guys. So the good idea is take a backseat.
But the prove it division, as I understand it, that has to do with relegation, right? Aren't they talking about if you win, you in that division, you move up, and if you're at the bottom of the big time one, you have to drop down and be relegated, right?
Yeah, so I guess the Reader's Digest version, that's a timely reference for the kids that are listening.
Yeah.
Reader's Digest is something that sat on the back of the toilet in everybody's house growing up. But the short version is, yeah, you would have an eighth division. So the top 70 teams cannot be relegated. They're not going anywhere because that's one of the huge problems that you have with relegation is, well, who's going to give up free money?
That's the
So
problem with doing it with a pro sport in this country.
exactly. So nobody's going to want to give up the free money. So what you do is you keep 70 teams, you protect them, and then you have essentially one double A division. And if you win that, you move up. And if you can't compete at the highest level, you move down. And it also kind of incentivizes certain teams that put money and financial investments into football because that's what ultimately leads to wins. And I think it's a win for everybody.
Justin Myers, host of Rip City Mornings here on the Rip City Drive. We were talking about this earlier in the show. What do you think about Mike McDonald, head coach of the Seahawks, taking a new approach, trying to create a clean slate for all of his players, stripping down the walls of all the memories of the past so that guys focus on creating their own memories? What's your take on that?
It's hairy high school stuff, right? This is like, I mean, it's what high school coaches do. You know what I mean? I've had this theory for years and years and years. I'll float this one by you guys. I watch Hard Knocks on HBO every year. I love it. I know it's not quite what it used to be, but I still love it. Every single summer in August, I watch Hard Knocks. And you find out that if you watch Hard Knocks long enough, you realize every NFL team is the same. They all have the same sayings on the walls. They all run their meetings the same way. They all do the rookie talent show. They're all run the same. And all the coaches are retreads, and certain running back coach who worked at the Jaguars and now he works for the Patriots and now he works for the Seahawks, right? It's all of this whole culture in the NFL. And you know what it ultimately comes down to? Do you have a defense and do you have a quarterback? Right? That's kind of what it comes down to. You can take down all the murals you want. You can put up all the whole, together everyone accomplishes more motivational signs and play like a Seahawk and all that stuff, and do the whole we're building our own tradition. None of it matters if you don't have a quarterback, right? None of it matters if you don't have a guy that is taking snaps and if you don't have a defense that can get stops. So to me, it seems like very high schoolish. It seems very, kind of what young coaches do. And here's the other thing. And you can go down the list of Bill Belichick disciples. Now, I know Mike McDonald's not a Bill Belichick disciple. He came from Baltimore, but you go down the list of all the Bill Belichick disciples, and they all got run out of town, from Vrabel to Patricia, Romeo Crennel, each and every one of them, they all got run out of town. Why? Because they came in and tried to act like Bill Belichick, and they weren't Bill Belichick. This feels a lot like that. Like, is Mike McDonald coming in trying to act like John Harbaugh? Yeah, but John Harbaugh's got a Super Bowl ring. John Harbaugh's got real life credit and credentials. You don't have anything. You've never been a head coach before. So it seems trivial. It seems childish. And until you find a quarterback in Seattle, I don't think anything's going to matter. It might backfire on them.
Hey, how was date night at Moda Center with you and the wife?
Date night was great. It was a fantastic night. Got good seats. Tip of the cap to the friends there at iHeart. So we had nice seats. The fireworks were a nice touch. Wait until game 81 to bust out the fireworks there. But yeah, date night was great. And Chad, the claws were flowing, my friend.
I love that.
Hey, what do you hear out of spring football with the Ducks?
Everything's great, Dwight. Everybody that transferred away stinks. Had no use for anyone. Everybody transferring in is an absolute haul. Dylan Gabriel is playing at the top. No, I mean, Dan Lanning is, he's young, he's energetic, but he's got enough savvy. He doesn't tell anybody anything. Like no report out of spring practice has any bit of detail to it. It's a lot of we're getting better every day. But like I said, spring is a time for optimism. I am kind of excited when the spring game comes around to kind of see what Dylan Gabriel looks like. But that's the beauty of the transfer portal, though, right? Is, Chad, you and I were talking about it. It's not like back in 2012. I remember because Chip Kelly shut down everything for Oregon practice. You didn't get any availability. And spring game 2012 was like, hey, this Hawaiian kid who everybody keeps talking about might be pretty good. And it was Marcus Mariota. And he
Yep.
kind of had his coming out party there at the spring game. Bo Nix a couple years ago looked really good. And it was like, oh, this isn't a quarterback competition. It's this kid's job. So I'm kind of interested to see kind of what Dylan Gabriel looks like in an Oregon uniform. But with the transfer portal, you have a frame of reference because you've got a whole season that he played at Oklahoma last year to kind of look back on.
All right, Justin, you're the best, man. Justin Myers, Rip City Mornings. What do you got coming up on the show tomorrow?
Well, as you guys both know, it is a feel good Friday because the sun is going to be out. It is a fancy coffee Friday. And with the NFL draft less than a week away, it's going to be a football Friday. So Cam Mellor is going to be joining us from the College Football Network. He also does a lot of NFL draft stuff. So we'll talk some NFL draft in particular with Bo Nix and Michael Penix heading into the draft next week.
You got it, buddy. Well, we appreciate the time, man. Enjoy your Friday.
You guys are the best, and we are out on time, Chad.
I know. Look at that. Yeah,
Perfect.
clock integrity. Justin is a newfound man. He's not destroying microphone stands, and he's got clock integrity now.
Really?
Yeah, he's a new man.
Dawning of a new day.
These self-imposed sanctions were a big deal. Justin knows what he's doing.
He's a pro.
I was just thinking about Trent Baalke the whole time he was
Me
talking.
too. Yeah.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
That's like my dad. My dad did that, I swear. Excuse me.
I played it over the top. I played just the fart over the top of Justin a couple times, but he didn't hear it.
I heard it.
I love some of the responses on Twitter, too. I can't read them, but
Yeah.
some good reaction to it. Where do we send the wipes? Oh, it's too good. I like good, deep belly laughter. It makes me feel good, Godfather.
I'm telling you, every time I hear that, there's no way I can keep a straight face. I laugh every time I hear it.
Like Justin said, relationship goals.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Any other questions? Oh.
And every time somebody farts in public now and you hear, excuse me, I'll go back to that. In fact, every time I hear somebody say, excuse me, I'm going to think of that.
Yeah. Thanks, Trent. All right. When we come back, I'll get Dwight's thoughts on the 70-team Super League that they're looking at for college, which is pretty cool. That could be the life preserver for Oregon State big time, Godfather.
Yeah. And I keep thinking they're waiting for something, and this sounds a lot like what they'd be waiting for.
How happy would that make Mike Parker? He'd be pretty happy, wouldn't he?
Very happy.
All right. You got the Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. Just confirm my reservation for El Gaucho tomorrow.
Oh man, I'm
Me
envious.
and 5 other dudes going to meet up down at Vancouver location. Haven't been to that one yet, Godfather. I'll give you a full report.
I've heard it's really good.
Now, if I can't get someone to split the chateau, then what do you think is my best bet? To go with the 8-ounce filet?
Can't go wrong with the 8-ounce filet mignon.
What was that stuff we had? The corn?
Street corn.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty
Really good.
pretty good.
Yeah.
What salad do you normally go with, Godfather?
Used to go with the what do you call that?
You go with the tableside Caesar or the classic wedge?
There we go. At Ringside, we go with the wedge, and at El Gaucho, we go with the tableside Caesar. Very, very good.
Do they put the anchovy in that?
Not if you don't want it.
You can get it without anchovy.
Oh yeah.
Do you like anchovies in your
No,
Caesar?
no.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
No.
All right, Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. We're going to get into social responsibility at 520.
Yeah.
Something you and I know a lot about.
Even though it doesn't show sometimes.
Trent Baalke obviously cares about social
Yeah,
responsibility.
absolutely. Very well-mannered man.
We've had a couple of people point out that it's almost like he knew it was coming and did nothing to try and slow down the arrival.
Well,
I respect that, though.
he excused himself. That's all you got to do.
I mean, if you say you're sorry or excuse me,
Excuse me.
what else can you do, really?
No.
Some
It's
people
a
would just say,
natural. Look, it's a natural body reaction. It's not anything, you know.
I've tried sharing that with Shacker before. He gets mad at me, so I got to be
Very.
mindful.
Yeah, you have to leave the room with Shacker.
I do. I go in the well zone and then turn that into the death zone. All right. This 70-team Super League in college sports that we were talking about with Justin, you think one of the biggest appeals is that you get back to the regionally based divisions, which I think is something we all, even though people want the change and the playoff expansion, I think people, they still want the regionally based action.
If you can get back to what was the old Pac-12 or even Pac-10 and still can make all this TV money that's going to come in, you're gold. That's perfect.
So really what they've got to do is find a way with this 70-team Super League to show the SEC and the Big Ten that you're still going to have access to buku bucks.
Right. That's the way to do it, too, is to somehow pencil out how much more money you'd make if you go for this.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do that, this is the United States of America. Nobody turns down money.
No one turns down money.
No, the more the merrier.
Well, heck, it goes back to the gambling now, right? The leagues jumped on the gambling as soon as they possibly could and didn't even think twice about it because of the money.
Nobody ever really seemed to ponder the morality of it.
No, it's just give me the cash, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with college sports. The football is going to go where the money's at. If that means playoff expansion, we'll do that. If that means a 70-team Super League, we can do that. And maybe I would like to think that Oregon State is preparing for something they think might happen, or maybe they're just waiting and hoping and praying. You know, I don't know what the situation is, but that would be the lifeline that a place like Oregon State and Washington State would need.
Oh, put them right back in the mix again.
Yeah, right back in the mix. You're part of the Super League, and you're playing in part of a division that's regionally based against some of the original Pac-12 schools.
Yeah, and then you're well fixed. You can go back and be what you want to be, and I think that's great. Justin's right, though. The reality of that is, if it does happen, even if it does happen, Chad, it's going to take forever because college sports move so slowly. It's like baseball. Baseball, the same way. They're just so slow in making changes.
But if you got the Super League, isn't that where you could usher in the commissioner, the Roger Goodell type who could be a decision maker to step in and make decisions, to solve matters, to enforce the plans that are in place?
And thanks to the schools all being well-heeled, you'd have enough money for an enforcement division so that what rules you do have, hopefully they could be enforced.
Yes, and then when your enforcement division has a case, they can get it handled in a much quicker period of time.
There should be a statute of limitations on things like that.
A good thing the NCAA wasn't investigating Jonte Porter. That would have taken 2 years. The NBA investigated it, came out with their ruling, and dropped the ban on Porter in a heartbeat. That's the problem with bureaucracy and the NCAA being such a large body, right, is that they move like molasses, slow.
Yeah, and they're not really motivated in some cases. It's like punishing people. They don't really want to do it, particularly if they're punishing their meal ticket, like Michigan.
Yeah.
They don't want to go too fast with that.
I did see that they came out with the little wrist slap on Michigan.
Yeah.
That's probably the right approach because Harbaugh's gone.
Yeah.
He moved on, and there you have it.
Like the coaches always do.
Yes. One thing that I wanted to touch on real quick, we didn't get to it yesterday. Bill Belichick and Bob Kraft, the relationship that went sideways, it runs deep. And according to reports that have come out, it was Kraft who cautioned the Falcons about hiring Belichick, that you wouldn't be able to trust him, and he rules with an iron fist, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see Belichick, I think, on a rehab tour.
Oh, yeah.
Through all sorts of media on television
It's
this
already
year.
started. Yeah, it's already started. The one thing I would say, in terms of Bob Kraft making a call to Arthur Blank and bad-mouthing Belichick, if, in fact, anybody with the Falcons watched the dynasty, they would not have a good feeling about hiring Bill Belichick. And in that respect, he can't blame. I know the thing was slanted against him. He still can't blame Kraft because he presented himself so poorly in that documentary.
Yes. And there's part of me that, hey, Bob, I know that Belichick was kind of an a-hole and he was difficult to deal with. He also gift-wrapped 6 championships to you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah. And while Kraft, you need a good owner to be able to make things like that happen, I'm going to give more credit to Belichick and Brady for those 6 titles than I will Kraft, although Kraft is terrific.
Probably a good thing they didn't hire Mike McDonald in New England, because going through and erasing all that stuff would not have been a good idea.
Yeah, Tom Brady's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
We don't care about the hoodie either.
Forget those Super Bowls.
We're here to we're forging our own path.
Yeah. Highway to hell. God.
Steve Largent, who? Forget that guy, man.
Yeah.
I don't care about Russ, Cortez Kennedy, Richard Sherman. It doesn't matter.
This is craziness.
All right. We'll keep things rolling here on the show. We'll get to the gambling subject and social responsibility at 5:20. But when we come back, we want to talk a little NFL draft and quarterbacks. Drafting philosophy and how far should you go to get your guy? That's really the question. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, 5 o'clock, Chad here. The Seattle Mariners are in Colorado. They kick off a weekend set tomorrow against the Rockies. Elsewhere, the NHL has okayed the Coyotes' sale and moved to Salt Lake City. NBA playoffs, we have a play-in doubleheader tomorrow that will determine the 8 seeds in both conferences. First game's at 4 on ESPN. The Bulls taking on the Heat down in Miami. Heat favored by 1.5. Jimmy Butler will miss the game and is expected to be out several weeks with a strained MCL. At 6:30 on TNT tomorrow, the Kings and Pelicans from New Orleans. Sacramento favored by 1.5. The Pels will be without Zion. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. All right, the NFL draft 1 week from tonight. It's going to be awesome because we could have 4 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be the first time that's ever happened in the NFL draft. I didn't realize that until a few weeks ago, but that surprises me that we have not had quarterbacks go 1 through 4 to kick off the draft before, based on how important and critical that position is.
I do think this season we've had more possible high-level quarterbacks, and people just, you talk about it all the time, they can't resist some of the borderliners. I mean, we're talking, there's going to be really 6. There's the 4 that are going to be taken, and then you have Bo Nix, and you have
Michael Penix.
Yeah, Michael Penix. Any of those guys in a normal year would be considered, yeah, maybe. We're not sure. And I still think there's an opportunity for either Nix or Penix to go in the first round. All it takes is one team to think they're good.
All right, so you and I both agree that Caleb Williams is the best prospect in the draft. He's going to go number 1. He's the best quarterback. And the closest thing of the quarterbacks to a sure deal. You also like Drake May, too, right? You like his arm strength, his size.
His arm strength and his size.
Who do you like number 2 after Williams?
Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
I'm not in love with his physical presence, put it that way, but he does all the things that you want a quarterback to do.
Yeah.
He can make the throws.
Your biggest concern with him is just his frame being slender, whether or not he can hold up with the punishment.
Yeah, it's the same reservations I had about Tua. And he's kind of holding up. I'll admit it when I see him get a couple more years under his belt, but I worried about his durability.
And look at Tua. He's coming off a healthy season. He was highly productive.
He was.
Health at quarterback is critical. You have to be available. You got to be on the field. And for a lot of those guys, you got to learn how to play with pain sometimes.
Right. And learn how not to get hurt. They had to teach him how to fall.
Yeah. I've watched Jaden Daniels. He is taller. He is slender. The good thing about him is that he's pretty good at avoiding some of the big hits, but that's going to be a concern. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I really do. You can throw the deep ball. He's accurate, smart. He can move and run, but it's not his go-to. He'd rather stand in the pocket and look to deliver the football. So I like that. It's nice to have the running ability if you need it, but not be so quick to lean on the running, right? Because he knows he can throw the football and be accurate with it. So I would put Jaden Daniels for me number 2 as well. After that, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
I do think if you get 4 quarterbacks that go 1 through 4, like everyone's projecting, with Chicago taking Williams, Jaden Daniels going to Washington, the Patriots settling in on Drake May, and then somebody moving up to get J.J. McCarthy at 4 with the Cardinals who already have Kyler Murray, you may get, out of desperation for a quarterback, you may get Nix or Penix to go. A team will reach and take one at the end of the first round. That is a possibility.
Yeah.
Because teams, they start to worry. They get antsy when it comes to the quarterback, and that's when they start to reach, right? So I'm fascinated by all of that.
The
But
thing about quarterbacks too, Chad, is so hard because they all come from kind of different systems, playing surrounded by good offensive lines, bad defenses, good defenses, the system. Then they're going to go to a team in the NFL that may have the same situation. Bad quarterback coach, bad offense, bad offensive line. It is so hard to see fit, I think. Is this guy fit with what your coach wants to do with him?
the other thing I find interesting with Caleb Williams, for example, there are a lot of fans who don't like Caleb Williams
Yeah.
with the fingernails and
Yeah.
the fact that he cried with his mom in the stands. People always like to bash on him, but the people who know him, who have coached him, his teammates, they all swear by the guy.
Yeah.
He's not what you think he is based on what he showcases on the field, right?
Yeah.
Which is the case with a lot of athletes. So I'm excited to watch Caleb Williams play. But I want to ask you about this when it comes to quarterbacks. You can reach on a guy in the first round. You can use multiple assets to move up to get your guy. I guess I understand the value of quarterback. You need to have a guy who is the guy or you're screwed in the NFL because the best teams have very good quarterback play. If you believe Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy or whoever the quarterback is this year is your guy and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get him, is it worth it? I mean, where do you stop and say no? Well, what if you find your franchise quarterback? If you truly believe someone's your franchise, is the price too high? If you got to use multiple picks to move up and get him,
No price is too high to get that quarterback
if it works out.
who could take you all the way. And I look at a coach like Sean Payton. If Sean Payton believes in Bo Nix, if he thinks Bo Nix can be the guy in Denver, he's going to take him.
You take him at 12.
And he doesn't care what anybody else thinks of Bo Nix. And a guy like Peyton has the ego to say, you know what? I see things in this guy other people aren't seeing. And I know how to make him a big-time quarterback. That's who we're going with, and I'm not apologizing to anybody for taking him.
So I guess the way I should look at it as a Bronco fan is if the Broncos move up to get McCarthy, or if they take Bo Nix at 12, or if they move up a couple of spots to make sure they get Bo Nix.
Yeah.
You just trust that he's the offensive guru. The Broncos are paying him big money for a reason, and he wouldn't draft him at that spot if he didn't believe that he was going to be the franchise.
He's staking his coaching life on that pick.
That's the whole key. You're
He
not
is.
going to stake yourself to a guy if you are, lukewarm on him.
That's why you'd like to be that quarterback, because look, he's so invested in me. I'm going to get every chance in the world to succeed, and they're going to put the right pieces around me to help me succeed, because everybody looks bad if I don't succeed. It's not just the quarterback. It's everybody in the building is not going to look so good if that quarterback they take doesn't make it.
Hey, what did you think about the Commanders? I think it was the Commanders, or maybe it was the Bears, but they got together a bunch of top picks coming up in the draft, and they went out and did like Top Golf to get everyone in the same room as kind of a team building night. What do you think about that type of setup?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw Belichick asked about that. He was asked about if he'd ever done it. He said no. He says the guys that they bring in as a group are the guys that they're not going to draft, but they bring the guys in that they think are going to be free agent and talk to them, because after the draft you have to be quick to go get those guys, to bring them into your camp, undrafted free agents. And so they bring them in all at the same time, and just because I think it's easier with those guys. You're not as invested in them. You don't have to spend as much time with them. They're long shots to begin with, okay? But they do it then. Otherwise, no. And he also said the guys you've spent a lot of time. He said the quarterbacks, the guys you're taking in the first, second round, you don't even have to bring those guys in, because you've studied them, you've met with them enough, you've talked to them. They're not a factor. It's the guys a little bit later.
I'm fascinated by that. How about the guys that teams don't even talk to? You have no idea they have interest in you, and they end up drafting you.
I know that happens in the NBA, but
You were a part of that with the Trailblazers with Harry Glickman.
yeah, I was one time. I drafted a player for him, pretty much.
That's so good. Hey, Dwight, who's that guy that played at Linfield? love that. All right. Sam Jones, who I became acquainted with, he was an offensive lineman at Arizona State.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the ex-Celtic guard.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the ex-Celtic guard was great.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, so my buddy Josh, his wife's family all lives in Denver. And one of her cousins was engaged to Sam Jones from Arizona State.
Oh.
So they're in Denver, the night before the draft, and they end up going to Elway's Steakhouse to get something to eat. And he's there, and Elway just happened to be there, and he came over and, he introduced himself to Elway, and they started talking. And Elway didn't mention anything about his playing career, ASU, or anything, right? It was just a nice little, hey, I'm Sam, nice to meet you, and that kind of deal. The next night, the Broncos drafted Sam Jones, and Elway didn't lead on at all that they had interest in him. And he ends up getting drafted by him. I think that's pretty wild to me. That Elway didn't lead on at all.
But it also made for kind of a pretty good interview with him because the guy was probably, he had let his guard down probably, and it was probably just a nice little chat.
Yeah, just a little chit-chat. And you're right there at the top of mind.
Yeah.
Hey, he seems like a good guy. We need an offensive lineman. Let's make the move on him.
Yeah, kind of humble, seemed to be nice, good manners. It was kind of he caught him off guard a little bit. That might have been the thing that clinched taking him. You never know.
So at this point, I am okay. If Sean Payton decides to trade back and focus on different position groups, I'm fine with that. If he wants to move up and roll the dice with multiple picks on J.J. McCarthy, then I'm okay with that. If he wants to take Bo Nix at 12, whatever.
In Sean Payton, we trust.
That's the way it has to be.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the owner feels the same way. It's like, I brought you in and I'm paying you $18 million a year to do your thing. Go out there and do what you believe is best. And you support your coach and your decision makers fully, right? Until they prove otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
How else can you do it?
That's it. That's why you're paying him the big bucks.
How involved was Paul when it came to the draft room with the Trailblazers?
Very, very. And I think this is one time where the owner in that room was respected because they knew he did his homework. I've heard that from many people.
He studied the players.
He knew the players. Absolutely. He sat in on interviews. He watched the workouts. He looked at the video. In fact, he would often bring up a player, as I understand it, and say, wait a minute, have you looked at this kid from Rutgers, the so-and-so, the guard? We have, but what did you like about him, Paul? And, I mean, obviously he's the owner, so you listen to him and you give him full opportunity to have his say. But also there was a degree of respect there that I'm sure a whole lot of other owners didn't have.
Yeah. Because if he puts in his time and he's breaking film and he's involved in the meetings and he's truly engaged, you got to respect that.
I was at draft workouts. I was at one out at the PF, and I looked around. Paul wasn't there. I said, where's Paul? And one of the PR guys said, see that camera up there? He's watching every second of this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
He wanted to watch from a bird's eye view.
Yeah. No, he was, at home, but he had the camera on it.
Who was the Paul pick? Was it Patty Mills? Was it Sergio?
He loved Patty Mills. He did. Yeah, in fact, I don't think he wanted to let him go. He kept him on the roster the one year. He never wanted to let him go. He loved Patty Mills, and he was right.
Yeah, Patty was a good player.
He lasted in the league a long time.
All right, when we come back, what's the social responsibility for the sports leagues and these gambling companies that, it's in your face all the time. You can't flip on a sporting event now and not get the gambling commercials, right, Godfather?
Yeah, sick of them.
So we'll dive into that conversation. It's Dwight and Chad. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, couple of pieces of breaking news. Number one, Arizona State quarterback Jaden Rashada, who was a freshman last year, played in just a few games because of an injury. He's entering the transfer portal.
Wow.
And it looks like Georgia and Maryland are the two schools that have the most interest in him. Also, this coming in from CNBC, this is kind of a big deal. The NBA's exclusive media rights negotiating window with current partners Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery is likely to expire Monday without a new deal, according to people familiar with the matter. Beginning next week, the NBA will be able to work on agreements for new partners to show packages of games. Amazon Plus, Apple Plus, YouTube TV, Comcast Plus, and NBC Universal Peacock and Netflix have all had preliminary conversations with the league expressing potential interest. The exclusive negotiating window with the league's incumbent partners officially ends Monday. While no agreement is expected to be announced by the deadline, Godfather, Disney and Warner Bros. Discovery have both continued to work on terms with the league. An NBA spokesperson confirmed the NBA would like to bring in at least one new partner to serve as a flagship screener. CNBC reported last year the league wants a robust streaming partner that will use marketing and reach to make games a priority on their platform. So interesting.
Yeah, the NBA is not quite in the power position that they were a few years ago in terms of making a lot of demands, and they're negotiating like with Disney. And I can tell you, ESPN is not doing all that great right now. And I would think Disney's got to draw the line somewhere on those negotiations.
And the report says here the NBA is looking to double the $24 billion it generated from its previous media rights deal with Disney and Warner Bros. Discovery by adding new partners and charging more for rights. In 2014, during the NBA's last negotiation, the league renewed its rights with Disney and Time Warner about 5 months before the end of its exclusive negotiating window. The NBA also doubled the price for its rights in that deal from its previous agreement.
When you're coming off like the worst ratings the league has ever had, it's probably not an appropriate time to start asking for your rights to televise the games to double.
They're not quite the power player the NFL is.
Not even close to the NFL. Nobody is.
Warner Brothers Discovery, TBS began airing games back in '84, and TNT has shown NBA games since '88. Disney's ESPN and ABC have broadcast the NBA since 2002. The two companies have both publicly expressed a desire to renew with the NBA and have joined forces with Fox to launch a new streaming service geared to sports fans that don't already pay for cable. That service will debut this fall, the company said earlier this year. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Well, most leagues want to be on ESPN because they cover you more on their sports centers if you happen to be telecast regularly.
Yeah, so you don't just get your games there. You get them talking about your games all the time.
Yeah, all the talk shows, all that. Excuse me, I just sneezed.
Much like the Trailblazers used to have with NBC.
Yeah, it's really that same
You
way.
air the games, and then you have other shows to continue to promote and talk about the content.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Good job. You still need a little bit of work to smooth it out as well as Trent Baalke.
I know.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
He's had a lot more practice at that than I have, I think.
I love it, too, because I'm looking at it in the cool edit, so I can see the audio spike when he let out the Bronx cheer.
Yeah.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Excuse me. No problem.
That's never not funny. You can play that a month from now. I'm going to laugh.
God. He just kept on rolling, too. I respect it because it didn't throw him off his game. He just dropped an excuse me in there and just kept on with his thought.
Yeah. It's no big deal.
If I did something like that, I would probably have to take a moment to laugh and enjoy it before I could continue with my thought.
Of course. Most people would. Yeah. That's a pro move by him. It's a pro move.
Oh, Trent Baalke. That's the best. That made my day right there. Trent Baalke. I never thought I would say this when I woke up this morning, but Trent Baalke won the day.
Yeah.
He's already going to get my high five. We might as well just do the high five segment right now.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat
yeah.
down and excuse me, board yet.
Excuse me.
All right, let's talk a little social responsibility. And this all is centered around.
It's a funny thing to go to after that. Oh, God.
It's so good.
Uh-huh.
Like, if he doesn't say excuse me, does anyone acknowledge what they just heard?
Well, they're not sure. You can't tell. I swear, if you hadn't called attention to it,
Did he make a mistake by saying excuse me?
I think he'd have been better off just to keep going and act like, where did that come from, you know?
Because then you leave people. What, was that a fart?
We lost all deniability.
Excuse
There's
me.
no deniability after you say
Yeah,
excuse
he didn't
me.
drop an F-bomb. Excuse my language. It was like, what? Why else would he be saying excuse me right
Yeah.
there?
I didn't hear him sneeze. I know that.
But if you're on an elevator, so this brings up another good discussion.
Oh, God.
Because I need to know how to prepare for these moments. Because if I
Uh-huh.
pull a Trent Baalke, if you're on an elevator and you fart, like, do you acknowledge it?
No, you know what to do. You turn around to the person next to you and you give them a dirty look. That's what you do. Like, come on. Because they're not expecting that, and they're going to look guilty when you do that. I guarantee it. I've done it a million times.
I've done that before too. Where you're in the concourse and you're
God.
like,
What a show this is, Chad.
I'm just saying, like you're walking down the concourse at Moda, and you're by yourself, and you let one out, and you know that it's just gonna.
You're leaving a trail? Is that what you're saying?
And then people walk by, and you hear them comment like, "Oh,
You carpet bombed. Oh, it's crop dusting.
you can hear people say like, you hear the mumbling like, someone dropped ass or whatever. And I'm just sitting there trying not to burst out of laughter because I know that I'm responsible, but they don't know I'm responsible. But I for some reason, I enjoy the fact that people are like acknowledging it. I don't know why I'm a sicko like that. It's just funny to me because you know what's going to happen, and then people are like,
That's not showing a lot of social responsibility.
that's
there.
not, is it?
No.
But if I'm by myself, I don't say excuse me. Yeah,
No, there's nobody to say it.
yeah, you're just like whatever.
Yeah.
Hope no one smells that one.
Yeah, said, yeah, that felt pretty good.
Okay, the gambling. You know, with Jonte Porter, and of course, keep in mind, I'm hypersensitive to this because I used to be a gambling addict. I mean, it nearly destroyed me, and that was a long time ago. But I was thinking about this now that the states have the authority to decide, and you're seeing sports gambling now being legalized across the country. So it's popping up everywhere, and it's so available, and the advertising is just over the top of you.
Yeah.
What is the role of the sports leagues and the gambling companies to help protect people? Because, look, I understand that not everyone's going to turn out to be an addict like me, but I also know that when you have something that's as highly addictive as gambling,
Yes.
being so available to everyone, that there's going to be more people that are going to fall into the same type of trap I did, and you're going to have this problem.
Ruin their lives.
Yes, absolutely. That's going to happen. It's happening right now as we speak. So what is the role? Because to me, having a gambling ad and then having a very quick disclaimer at the end, gambling problem call, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah, right.
that seems a little bit weird to me. I mean, what's your take on this?
Well, Chad, I'll tell you, I've done a lot of thinking about it because it's bothered me since they started doing this. And I have a feeling, for me, it's a lot like cigarettes. Everybody knew they were addictive. Okay, for a long time we knew that, but they were allowed to advertise on television, run those big splashy magazine ads, okay? But we also knew, yeah, they were going to kill some people, but not every person. You know, some people live to be 90 and heavy smokers, whatever. It's like gambling, though. It's going to ruin lives. But there has to be at some point, social responsibility that what we're selling people is harmful, probably to their mental health, quite possibly, to their lives because they might get depressed. It could ruin their lives if they lose all their money, if they have to turn to crime, whatever, because people do that. I think that's a real concern. And at some point, you have to take that responsibility and face up to the fact that you're advertising something that's actually harmful to people. I believe it is. And you know what? They start you off by giving it to you for free, just like the drug dealer down on the corner. Yeah, he'll give you some meth if you want to start that. Yeah, he'll give you some heroin because he knows you're going to be back for more. These guys, these gamblers, listen to the ads. They want to give you $150 worth of free bets. They want to start you off with their money because they're so sure you're going to come back and you lose yours.
Yeah. So that brings me back to the players. You've got all these young guys coming from college or the G League, and they're entering into the NBA. These are young men with developing brains, not fully mature yet, who are, like you and I, being bombarded with the gambling ads.
That age is really their target audience, I believe.
The young men.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just concerned that Jonte Porter's not going to be the end of these type of stories. You're going to have people, fans, who are going to get hooked on gambling, and it's going to cause major disruption to many people's lives. But you're also going to have more athletes who are making poor decisions, and they're going to get caught gambling again. And you're going to continue to have this issue. So it's really bizarre to me. It's almost like the leagues, just like everything else, they see the money and the big allure of the big payday to jump in bed with the big gambling companies, and all they care about is the profit. And no one stops to say, okay, what's the fallout here?
Yeah.
They just rush because they want the money. And I understand that, but there is a bigger fallout here. For all the good things that it brings and the entertainment it's going to bring people watching games or whatever, there's also a dark side to it. And no one wants to talk about that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Chad. And it's like, how many people have you heard say, yeah, it's hard for me to watch football unless I got a little action on it.
There's
I hear
a lot of
that all
people.
the time.
They love it.
Yeah. And boy, that's dangerous. That's dangerous if you're betting a game just because you're going to watch it on TV. A real bettor only bets a game if he thinks he knows what the outcome's going to be and he's totally convinced and he's got the science behind it. People win at gambling, but you're not going to win. I'm not going to win. The pros win, the ones who really understand it.
Yeah.
And they know how to win.
Yeah, I've always been a little bit state-sponsored lotteries.
Yeah, Powerball.
Yeah, all that stuff is sickening. Here in Oregon, too, because they got the Oregon lottery machines.
Mm-hmm.
I used to bartend, so I saw the type of money that was being pumped into those machines on a
video
nightly
poker.
basis. Yeah, the video poker and stuff. So I'm just concerned about the fallout here. And what I'm afraid of is that when you have young men, even though you're telling them this or that or whatever, they're still going to make poor choices. And the allure is there, right? It's a fantasy thing. It's a fantasy addiction. So look out, because this is not going to be the last of it with Jonte Porter. And we'll see how the NBA continues to do this. But I don't know if it's education, but they've got to be on top of this.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. At some point, the athletes are going to figure out, if I go with one of these organizations like FanDuel or one of the other ones, they're going to track the betting. But if I go bet with Joe down at the barber shop or have my buddy go to Joe and do the illegal bookie route, they're not nearly as likely to catch you.
Who else is susceptible to persuasion? We know about Jonte Porter. We were talking about players on 10 days or some of the guys that know they're not going to be, probably long for the league, right? So they're looking to make a score with some of the information they have.
Well, a lot of the very wealthy players are big gamblers. Barkley's not shy about talking about his gambling.
He loves to gamble.
And it's like what he always says is, I got no problem. Yeah, I can lose $5 million. I can afford that.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
What about the players on the plane with their, Boo-Ray and the other card games? Where
All those card games that they're betting thousands.
Many thousands of
it's
dollars.
broken a few teams up because players won't pay,
Yeah. Where else do these casinos and the enforcement, what was it, U.S. Integrity, the service that's keeping an eye on everything? What about scorekeepers for NBA games?
You brought that up earlier, Chad, and I think I had totally missed that.
Like, what's a rebound and what's not?
Yeah, they got prop bets on this, and you've seen how many rebounds are up for grabs. Give that one to so-and-so. Give that one to this guy, or give it to number 55.
But you could reach a person like that and say, hey, we need this number to go here.
Right. We need this guy to get this many turnovers, this many whatever. Because there's a lot of discretionary statistics in a basketball game.
As we know, I would say officials, something to keep an eye on. They could be reached.
Yeah.
mean, they make good money, but everyone's always looking for more money. And that's always my response. Well, why would someone do that to make a good living? Because everyone's looking for more money. That's why.
And when you get in debt and you're thinking about gambling, what are you going to gamble on? What you know best,
Yeah.
what you have the best chance at winning. If you're a referee, that'd be NBA basketball or
Yes.
college basketball, whatever you referee.
Hmm. Yeah. Did they used to have this? That would be before my time, but they used to have like commercials, right? TV commercials for cigarettes. They used to do that.
Absolutely. Don't you remember? Well, I guess you Marlboro cigarettes. The guy, the cowboy on the back of a horse.
Did they used to have the Marlboro Man
Yeah, Marlboro Man.
in a commercial?
Yeah, of course.
That's wild to me.
Yeah,
I remember like the magazine ads and stuff like that.
yeah, those
For
were
like
funny.
cool, like the
Yeah.
menthol cigarettes.
Yeah, cool with the little penguin smoking a cigarette. Yeah, that's always good. Yeah, no, there was Virginia Slims, the cigarette for women. You know, that was a big deal. Yeah, they were all over television. Cigarette ads.
I can't remember exactly, but I've always been told. I did some ridiculous research papers in college on tobacco policy in different countries or whatever. But I think cigarette advertising has always gone after younger individuals,
Sure.
right?
They want to get you when you're starting.
They want to get you young because if they get you young, they get you hooked, and then they got you
Yeah.
as a lifetime customer. That's insanity.
'Cause it's so hard to quit smoking. Boy, if you get a guy hooked, that's curtains.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a scary time we live in. So keep an eye on it. We're going to see the fallout, right? The problem is you get more people addicted to gambling, and then you have more financial stress.
Which leads to ruined lives, suicides, crime,
Yes.
all the bad things that can happen from that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just feels like they rushed into it just a little bit. But I would think for the athletes, they got to continue to overeducate these guys. I mean, at all times, no gambling on NBA games, no gambling on NFL games, depending on what sport you play.
I think it's better that they just basically can't gamble at all.
Just tell the athletes they can't gamble.
No gambling. Yeah. Why give them a taste of it? It's too addictive. They said with Jonte, he'd been betting with another service on non-basketball stuff for quite a while. He lost a lot of money betting on college football and things like that.
So he started to dip into something he's got a little more knowledge on.
Sure.
That would be the natural step. Like, why am I betting on NHL when I
Yeah.
know more about the NBA?
Yeah.
Or what if you know if a player is on minute restrictions? Like, if you know a certain guy's only going to play 20 minutes that night,
Got to bet the under on how many points he scores.
you would have knowledge of team decisions before the rest of the public would.
Yeah.
Or if a guy isn't expected to play, but you got wind that he's probably going to play, like, just think about how easy it would be.
Yeah, you watch those cell phones at halftime. See if somebody's making a little text or call to someone.
How long until you can just walk up, get your beer, and place a bet right there at the window?
Well,
That's
it's going to be
coming,
a
right?
while here, but you can do it in other places.
Weren't
in
you
the
at
country.
Cincinnati? Don't they have that at Cincinnati? Where
It's
you can bet?
attached to the ballpark. You kind of have to go outside the ballpark, then back in, kind of to get to it. But yeah, and I think in Arizona now they have
In-person bets.
Yeah, they have
Wow.
it right there. And the plans were always in Moda Center. There would be at some point a casino in there.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to hand out high fives. I haven't made my decision, but I kind of have made my decision.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
I think that's high five worthy, Godfather.
Saying I'm sorry, excuse me, any of that. That's like admitting guilt. Probably not a good idea.
He was quick on it, too. Excuse me. No problem, Trent.
Excuse me.
And you've never said excuse me after any of yours.
Excuse me, gone through the final.
No, I haven't. I'm not as classy as Trent Baalke.
There wasn't even a period after excuse me.
No,
He
it's-
just led right into that.
Excuse me,
sentence.
gone through the final.
Excuse me,
right
going
to
through
the
the
same.
final.
It's incredible. All right. High fives up next on the Rip City Drive. Well, you're right about one thing, Godfather. Tonight is slim pickings for
Ooh.
sports on television.
Yeah, there's nothing much going on tonight. Very upsetting.
Yeah, I was bitter. I thought without checking that they would go 1-1 on the NBA playing games.
Yeah.
They're going to do both tomorrow.
Well, and that's kind of weird too, because New Orleans, when did they played Monday or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
they
they're
get
not
some
playing
extra
again
rest.
until Friday.
Yeah, what does it matter? Zion can't play no matter what. Let's just get back out there and play a game.
Wait till next month, and he still can't play.
But I guess if I can suffer through tonight, it'll be cool to get the doubleheader tomorrow. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Whatever. But after tonight, then, and once we move into Saturday, it's going to be nonstop NBA for the next couple of months with the
Yeah.
playoffs. So that's
Yeah,
fun.
you would think. Yeah.
But the baseball, there's been some good early season baseball action.
Yeah, I think some teams are playing tonight, but there's not a lot of games on the slate tonight. I'm pretty picky about who I watch too.
Well. What's on your? The Braves, and then who
I
else?
watch the Braves. My second choice is always the Orioles because of Adley, and they got such a great young team filled with prospects. And then the Giants because of their broadcast team.
Yeah, you have no games tonight. You've got
None of those teams are playing, right?
no Diamondbacks and Giants at 6:45 on
Where is
FS1.
is that at Arizona?
It's in San Francisco.
Oh, good, because that's when Kuiper and Kruko do the home games.
Yeah.
They're not doing as many road games anymore.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. The
Oh,
Giants broadcast team as a
outstanding.
whole,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I like the Mets, too. That's another team. The Mets broadcast team with Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez with Gary Cohn, really good.
But with Krupp and Kipe and then John Miller, the whole crew, like I'll watch games just to hear them.
Because of them.
They're
Sure.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no games tonight, and then tomorrow we got some good games coming up tomorrow. I'm excited to see the Mariners get a chance to go to the Coors. Mets and Dodgers kick off a set tomorrow in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Mets are hot right now, too.
Yeah, they are. They're on fire. The Dodgers are, they're good, but they've been, of late struggling just a bit. Blue Jays and Padres, Brewers and Cards, Tigers and Twins. I'll tune in sometimes just to hear my guy for the Brewers too.
Oh, Euchre?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, he's great. He's only doing home games now, too, I think.
Yeah, he's not.
He's like 92 or
Yeah, he's not as sharp as he used to be. But
Still Euchre.
gosh, he's freaking good. Great
Yeah.
storyteller, funny man. Love
Mhm.
Ukes. Rangers and Braves should be a good series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and Al Leiter's kid is going to make his major league debut for the Rangers this weekend. His brother, Mark Leiter, his son has already pitched in the majors, so there'll be two big league guys with their sons pitching in the big leagues at the same time.
Rays and Yankees in New York this weekend. So that'd be a good set. Yeah, some
Well,
good ones.
Yankees are worth watching right now because of their offense.
Oh, they're putting it up. They've been hot.
Yeah. Soto is a great addition for them.
I just hope they stay healthy to the beginning of June. I don't want to arrive in New York for the Dodger-Yankees series and all of a sudden all the stars are out because of injuries.
Oh, yeah. You got to keep Judge healthy. That's the whole thing. That's who you go to see.
All right, high five time. Who would you like to hand your high five out to?
Well, it's kind of, I'm sure, going to be a recurring theme tonight
Yes.
on the high fives. I'm going with Justin Myers, who told us the inside story on his breaking wind in his family and who went first.
He went
first.
He went first.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to hear that the Myers are doing very well, that they've reached a point in their relationship where they can admire each other's Bronx cheers. I think that's a good thing. That's a
I
sign
do
of
too.
good love right there.
Marriage made in heaven.
My high five is absolutely going to Trent Baalke, and this is why.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Can you imagine if you would have been sitting in the audience, your laughter would have been so loud. Right? Mine would have, I think. If I could not keep a straight face if that happened.
No, I'd be laughing my ass off.
Absolutely.
Dude, I would be applauding. I'm like, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. Do that again.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
Oh, man, I'd hire that guy anytime.
But if he doesn't say excuse me, you're like, what was that? Did he just?
Yeah. No, that's what made it. The excuse me was the key. That was the key. Otherwise, what did I hear? Because
Yeah.
we've seen those clips before where it's like, did he or didn't he? I think he did, but hard to know. Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, the Dan Orlovsky. I mean that's definitely a fart, right?
Yeah, he did it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't buy into the. I've had, just like everyone else, I have had a lot of windshield wipers in my time.
And none of them ever sound like that?
No, never. And have you? And so I heard that, and I'm like, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And but at least he was able to laugh about it. I just the best thing is that Orlovsky's being tagged repeatedly because of Balky.
I know it.
They're being linked together, which
Yeah.
is absolutely fabulous. So
He
I'm a big
responded
fan.
to one of them and said, was he in the car?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Orlovsky, I mean, I'll play it right now. Let's take a listen to this real quick.
It's impossible to be at the top at both of those, essentially. Like it's
That's not a windshield
No,
wiper.
no. And they called him on it right away, too.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
it's impossible to be at the top at both of those, essentially. Like it.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board
Amazing.
yet.
Give a high five to Orlovsky, too, just in case we forgot to do that. Props to both of them.
Although he didn't say he was sorry.
That's true. He didn't say excuse me or say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Both of them going to the Farters Hall of Fame. If there is such a thing. There should be.
Yeah.
All right.
First ballot.
All right. See you tomorrow, Godfather.
Yeah, same to you.
Brian Noble will join us tomorrow. Big thanks to Michael